Morning, weekdays only on Channels Television.
So the Tanzanian President John Magufuli has ordered a special audit of mining companies to determine if they pay their fair share of taxes to the East African country. Mining contributes 3.5% of the GDP in Tanzania, Africa's fourth largest gold producer, but the government wants the sector to pay more taxes. So the order for an audit follows an abrupt ban of exports of gold and copper concentrates. Since coming to power in November 2015, President Magufuli has promised to root out tax evasion, corruption, and mismanagement, but some foreign investors have been rattled by his policies. Tanzania's biggest mining firm, Acacia Mining, is in talks with the government after being hit hard by the ban on exports, with the miner saying it is incurring a daily loss of $1 million due to the stoppage. Let's cross over to Libya in North Africa, where production is dropping by about 500,000 barrels a day. That's the lowest since last September, as exports from the nation's second largest terminal at Zawiya were disrupted. The OPEC nation's output has fallen from about 700,000 barrels last week, since production halted at Sharara in southwest Libya, following the shutdown of the pipeline that links the field to Zawiya. Shipments from Zawiya, west of Tripoli, the capital, are now under force majeure. An increase in Libya's crude output since last year faltered this month when an armed group took control of the nation's biggest oil port at El Cida, east of Tripoli, where the first tanker in weeks loaded on Monday, according to tanker tracking. The nation's output averaged about 624,000 barrels a day in the past 5 months. So let's stick with the global oil story from Libya and try to find out where things are really at the moment. Adim Okwesa is a research analyst with a financial derivatives company in Lagos. He's going to talk to us about prices edging up slightly, extending 2 days of increases as the supply disruptions in Libya lifted the market. And of course, the U.S. market, the recount there as well. Adim, good afternoon. Thanks for coming through.
Good afternoon, Wilson.
It's good for us to get together once again. It's been quite a couple of days, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. Well, okay, so let's just get out to business. Rising crude inventory remains a concern for global oil market. What's the implication for Nigeria as an oil producing state?
Well, I think the major reason why oil prices, if we notice, oil prices declined from about $55, $56 per barrel earlier this year to about as low as $50. The major reason for that was because of the persistent increase in high inventories. And I think that's because of most refineries in the US and Europe are down for maintenance. So refinery utilization has been very low. But I think if you look at yesterday's inventory data from the Energy Information Administration, we saw that all inventories rose at a slower pace than expected. This implies that refineries are starting to pick up, and more demand is starting to be demand is ramping up. And as the months go by, as April, May, we should see refinery utilization pick up, and that will prop up oil prices. So at the end of the day, that will be good for Nigeria.
Yeah, Adim, I'm looking at U.S. crude at 49.92 right now. I'm sure you see this more often than I do, about 1%, 0.83% in the green. 49.92. Brent is also making a bit of a comeback. So the key question is, how do we factor in the problems in North Africa, Libya to be precise, in this price conversation, and what some analysts say there could be a glut in the global market moving forward between now and June?
Well, I think Libya's situation is obviously propping up the markets. As a repeat of what happened in 2016, I think the situation is still very volatile. As I said this morning, armed protesters are still blocking a major oil field, and that has reduced Libya's oil output by about $250,000 per barrel, 250,000 barrels per day. And please, can you repeat your second question, please?
No, I was trying to find out, with the prices moving, creeping up, U.S. oil is about, WTI about heading towards $50 a barrel today, and with the problem in Libya, where do we place that with the expected glut? Some analysts say there could be a glut in the market that could put a lot of pressure on prices between now and June, when the first OPEC output would have tapered off. Then perhaps the second round will take place.
Well, I disagree. I think although there's a resurgence in U.S. shale output, but if you look at the broader construct of the market, supply is equals to demand, or even at some point, supply is less than demand. So I think that the glut has eased significantly. OPEC compliance levels are very high, historically high, and you're taking out $1.8 million per barrel. I think what the market is missing is that U.S. shale, I think the consensus is that would rise by 500,000 per barrel. And even if U.S. output is increasing, other non-OPEC countries, for example, in Latin America, Asia, Canada, their output is declining because there's been a significant decline in capital expenditure. So I think the glut is easing. And as the months progress, as summer comes, the driving season starts in Northern Hemisphere, that should drive up demand, and that should ease the supply glut. So I think by June, the situation will look much better than it is now. Okay,
Adib, thank you for your time today. I'm sure you drink coffee, don't you?
I do.
You do? I do coffee too. So let's talk about coffee stories. Sit back. Nice to see you. Thank you. Let's talk about Uganda Coffee, where you find a clothing trader being turned to a coffee entrepreneur, and she's a woman, Betty Udunga, who's found a way to make a living selling an improved variety of coffee seedlings and helping other communities to develop themselves. Let's have that coffee, shall we?
Betty Nduga is an entrepreneur from Luwere District, Uganda, providing local farmers with coffee bean seedlings. Betty used to be a clothing trader in the capital, Kampala, but after her husband died, she returned to her village and joined a local farmer field school supported by the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, where she was trained in coffee production.
This is where my first nursery was established. It used to stop here. Then I expanded to the nursery all the way up there and to the end.
Betty started with 50 coffee seedlings, which grew to 10,000 seedlings the next season. Today, Betty says she has 220,000 seedlings. The farmer inherited the nursery from her parents and saw a business potential in it.
After my parents died, I had learned how to raise the coffee seedlings, and I started to operate this nursery as a business enterprise.
Coffee bean has traditionally been Uganda's top export crop. However, since 1993, coffee wilt disease has destroyed over 12 million plants here, forcing many smallholder farmers to abandon their coffee plantations. Now, a wilt-resistant variety has been developed, bringing new hope for smallholder farmers. Betty's seedlings are also being bought by the Uganda Coffee Development Authority, who distribute them to farmers, while also providing training in the drive to revive the sector.
I've taken 250 seedlings that after some 2 years to come, I'll be able to yield. Then I sell, and I add on my income educate my children, looking after my family, and all the basic needs.
Despite the popularity of the scheme, entrepreneurs such as Betty and local farmers say one of the major hurdles they face is access to water.
Doing business in Africa. We hope you enjoy Business Incorporated today. I am Bosinov. I do have a great day and do have a cup of coffee.